Welcome to the 81st edition of Afterburner here in this 2024-2025 season. It's not your fault.
It's over.
It's not your fault.
I appreciate
not your fault.
Yeah.
Not your fault.
You just have
Maybe
to feel
you didn't
the
even
pain.
pick the Flames as a team to cheer for when you were growing up. Maybe you grew into it. Maybe your dad cheered for it. It's not your fault.
I was born here, so yeah.
Not your fault. Not your fault. Peak pain being actualized. We'll get to that in a moment. This program is brought to you by Bet365. Use that promo code NATION. Download the app. Let's get her going. Also, we'll let you get involved today. It is elimination night for the Calgary Flames, but not just an elimination, an excruciatingly painful elimination. We'll get to that. So we are going to welcome all of your comments. Jack's going to be super friendly on the comments. I don't know that we need to break out the whiteboard to analyze tonight's game. So if you want to get to the front of the queue, Super Chat's your way to do it. The Super Chat benefits the Youth Centers of Calgary, a great, safe place for kids in our city that are at risk, or meal, friends, picking up some life skills, and a safe place to be until mom and dad get home from work. The Youth Centers of Calgary gets all the Super Chat money, so don't be cheap. Kent, I've talked all over you. Welcome to Afterburner tonight. I'm sorry you've had to endure another Flames season, but at the same time, it's kind of what we sign up for. They are guaranteed to finish 9th in the West.
Yeah, and that was kind of the one mission in the offseason, right? Don't finish 9 in the West. and to be fair to management, I mean, they kind of did everything they could not have that to happen, and then Wolf comes out of nowhere and has the best rookie season by a Flames goaltender ever.
And it's probably the best rookie goaltending season we've seen in almost a quarter century.
A long time.
Like Steve Mason won it. It's a better year than he had. It's been a long ass time since a rookie goalie looked this good. And of course he did it this year, where keeping your top 10 pick would have been crucial. And instead, unless you win the draft lottery in the 16 hole, you are not going to keep your own pick.
Right.
What was the percentage?
Yeah.
Is it 1%?
1, I think it's 1.
Yeah. Oh, so you're saying there's a chance.
That's right.
God bless you, Kent. 5-4 is your final. The Flames did some, Flamesy things for this year, which is to give them a lot of credit. They looked like they were, it wasn't going to be their night, and they did not quit, and they worked their tails off. They ended up getting 2 points. 2 points will not be enough. We will show you why, because right around the time the Flames were battling at in the second period or into the intermission, Minnesota was down 2-1 to the Anaheim Ducks. Now, before we get this going, quick refresher on where we were this morning when this all started. When we woke up and figured out all the math, and we poured over old Pike's grids. The wrench was hard working on his grids. Essentially, a regulation loss for either team would allow the Flames to run the table and get in. To get even more specific, a single point from Minnesota would punch their ticket, and even just an overtime victory, not regulation, for St. Louis would allow the door open for the Calgary Flames to win their last 2 games. And if they're both in regulation, they could have a tie break at 96 points and get into the playoffs. Wasn't going to happen with the Blues, Kent. We saw it early. They jumped out to a early lead all over the Utahs. 1-0, 2-0, 3-0, 4-0, 5-1, 6-1 curtains. Utah, you let us down. Carmel Ventimoka, you're in the bad books, bud. He got last night off. It was second half of a back-to-back. Vejmelka aerated pretty quick, pretty often by the Blues, who punched their ticket. But here's the thing. Minnesota, who also started at 6 p.m., were not blowing the doors off the Ducks. This game was 1-1 until the third period, when Anaheim took the lead of all teams. So here we go. Empty net behind the Wild. They called a timeout with 1:16 remaining. Let's watch. Let's just
expect to have much of an interesting season going into this year.
Yeah, we talked about it this morning. There was an anticipation of many months of meaningless hockey. And the meaningless hockey will be one game, which is incredible, because this roster, nobody outside of that dressing room projected to be within one game of a Stanley Cup playoff berth. But really, that's what it is. And for the Minnesota Wild, You're glad you got Joel Eriksson Ek back. He had 4 goals in an 8-7 overtime
Yeah.
win in San Jose last week. He then has the OT winner tonight, had to whack at it a few times. And at that point, it was all semantics. The Blues were not going to blow a 4-goal lead with 6 minutes in the third period. And it's funny because the Flames come out in the third and they've essentially been eliminated. They're down 3-1. And you're like, okay, well, this has definitely got the potential to get very ugly. And instead, it's Kadri 32 seconds in, Backlund 104 into the third, tie game 3-3. Maybe we start there, Jack. It's 3-1. There's no reason for this team to do anything but just say, all right,
coast,
not happening. And instead, in the fashion that 3-2, may as well roll to the Flames goals. It's their fault. They're being the best versions of themselves as they can. Tie it up. Then the Flames. Look at this. The big rig getting involved as well. There's the back row. That would tie it. Joe Colburn got to 19 goals one year when every fourth shot went in after they were eliminated. I really hope Adam Klapka's a thing. In fact, we're not putting a pin in it. We're going to talk about it now.
Let's talk about it right now.
Give me your Adam Klapka position, because I agree with you. He's been seemingly undeniable the last few weeks as a guy that really hadn't cemented a roster spot prior to that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm coming from my previous position being this is obviously a fringe guy who's going to get called up when people are injured. That's about his ceiling. But he might be an NHL regular, which is, I'm not saying should be playing on a top line for the rest of his career. But you might start seeing a third, fourth line guy who can play every night and give you useful minutes, right? But you're right. You need to see this over more than a 10 or 20 game stretch. That said, I looked at his underlying numbers starting in February, and they're solid for like a couple of months now. So it's like,
he and Lomberg took over that game in Colorado, the last back-to-back they played. I believe it was the 31st of March and the 1st of April where they went Colorado, Utah. And they had no business winning that game in Colorado. They were getting shelled. Colorado didn't really put them away. The goalie kept them in it. And then it was Lomberg and Klapka show in the third period. They ended up winning that game. And of course, they would lose to Utah the next night because Flames. But from that point forth, it's been really hard to do anything but admire what Klapka's given them, because he's found a way to factor into games when he's not scoring or when, it's not just hitting. He's also adding some offense. And he's really started to figure out how to impact games at a regular basis at this level.
Yeah, and a lot of times guys like that come up and he's big, right? And they just expect him to go out and crash and maybe fight guys if he has to, even though he's honestly not a great fighter, even though he's
big.
But he's not a great fighter. But you've seen him over the course of the season get more confidence, actually make moves, make plays, rag the puck, go around guys, score goals. Like that's what he needs to do to be a regular. So if he can keep doing that, he should be a fixture next year. Yeah.
His goal would make it 4-3. Vegas would tie it on a kind of controversial goal. Sod, I believe it was, pushing a defender into Wolf as he was sliding backwards. Puck does go in. Hey, it's a goalie interference review. These are as clear as mud. So what are we going to do? They flipped the coin in the control center. The goal stood 4-4 at that point. Some great chances in overtime. I think of that Wolf full split save that he makes. Another great glove hand save. Andersson, I think he hits the post on that breakaway.
He did, yeah.
Lots of chances there. He's taking his time too. He wasn't in a rush. But I guess if you finished it, no one would say a thing. Then in the shootout, Sharangovich, Coronado post, Frost. And it
doesn't matter.
You could have probably gotten there, but it's kind of one of those things they let shooters get away with it.
Being that petty.
Yeah, it would be flamesy though. And then people on the internet would scream about Dennis Weidman effect and stuff. Glad it didn't happen now that I brought it up.
Yeah.
5-4 is your final shootout victory for the Calgary Flames. They moved to 40, 27, and 14. If they win their Thursday night game in Los Angeles, that would be 41 wins and some other Gary Bettman points. So we'd win exactly half their games and then pick up the loser points on the way. Let's get to the road ahead. We do that for Platinum Mitsubishi. I was actually at Platinum on Saturday saying hello to Mike Gould, as well as the great employees of Platinum Mitsubishi, family run. And you could feel that the moment you walked in. This was a different feel. Excited to finally get up there and shake hands with everyone. Calgary's number 1 destination for the upgraded 2025 Outlander, the refreshed flagship 7-seater from Mitsubishi Motors. One of the things they're very proud of, that Yamaha sound system, base model all the way up. Standard. Love it. Love it when your brand name audio system standard across the whole model. Also, they got the brown leather seats. Look pretty sexy, got to be honest. I helped Mike get his family seated in one. I don't know if it's sold or not. I haven't seen any commission check come in, but people quite impressed
someday
with the 2025 Outlander. We'd encourage you to go check it out. They are located 2720 Barlow Trail Northeast in Calgary. The road ahead's a simple one. They go to LA, then they will come home, and they'll probably have a locker cleanout day on Saturday, Kent, because I imagine they'll be getting back in the wee hours on Friday after a Thursday game in Los Angeles. They might even spend the night. I don't know. Not really a ton to talk about on the road ahead, except that, hey, you're going to play your kids now, right?
That's right.
So it should be NHL debut of Zane Parekh. It should be the NHL debut of Idar Suniev, and it could be the NHL debut for Carter King, or could it? Because he signed the ATO. We'll see.
I don't know.
So that'll, and again, King's a 23-year-old centerman that played at DU, won, I believe, a couple national championships. They're great at faceoffs, but the other two would be more of the prospecty category and younger with higher ceilings. And Parek's absolutely a blue chip prospect. So for Flames fans, it's not a mean nothing game in the sense that you'll be getting your first viewings of hopefully one core piece in the Calgary Flames in the future, and maybe even two if you're lucky.
Yep, looking forward to that. It's Parek's the best prospect they've had since Tkachuk,
or
at
Wolf.
least.
But
or Wolf,
a bit different.
Yeah, not doing the skater versus goalie thing.
Yeah, and you know what? It's just like we've seen so many hyped goalie prospects just turn into dudes that don't matter. It's like it's a huge grain of salt when you have a goalie prospect because they're just too volatile. So I'll go with you. Best prospect since Tkachuk.
Yep. So looking forward to it. Gould thinks Stromgren's going to come up. I don't think so, but we'll see.
They could. I mean, I would look at the Wranglers' schedule. They did clinch. I don't know that he's knocking the door down with his second half. You could see Hanzik, but he's been in and out with injury. They got him playing center now. It's really going to be a reward for Parekh, Suniev, and potentially even Carter King to say, hey, congrats on becoming pros. And all three of those guys should be in the system under the organization's watchful eyes next year. I can't envision Parekh going back to the OHL. It's just nothing to learn there. It's kind of a tough spot. You can't put him in the A. Suniev likely will get a full season in the American Hockey League unless he completely blows the doors off and earns a call-up. And King's going to be a centerman. He's one of three they have signed for next year. There's Backlund, Kadri, and Carter King. Lots of RFAs that are – they got Frost. Yeah. They got, obviously, Sam Morton, amongst others. So that will be your Game 82 teaser, a chance to look at the kids. And for all the bitching and moaning on the social media, like the kids are going to have great careers playing in games 79, 80, 81, 82, or just 82. Like no one's going to care or remember in 2-3 years. People are really trying to make a mountain out of this. And I understand where Ryan Husk is coming from. And I think he's made the right call that, you know, the group that got him in this position to do this should be the group that tries to close it out, given that Zane Parekh, A, has never played against pros, and B, you know, you're going to ask him to either play with Bean or go to his offside. Yeah. Put your players in positions to succeed. Maybe not like where a turnover can sink your playoff hopes. Where did you weigh in all that online consternation regarding Parekh?
Well, I was mildly on the play him train. It wasn't something I was going to get angry about, but I don't consider a 10% chance at the playoffs to be a chance. Like I agree. I'm not the coach. I don't
Minnesota. I could have been won over. It's last change. You're at home. Maybe you go 11-7, but
It's because I just didn't think it was a realistic shot of making the playoffs. Now, I'm not the coach. I don't have to go into the room and say, "Hey, guys, we're throwing the kid in there. Don't worry about it,"
Mhm.
right? That's that sort of thing, right? It's
Yeah.
very easy for me to say, right? And I just
Yeah.
want to say it because I just want to see the kid play, and that's what a lot of people want to see.
Everyone's
Like, he
excited for
looks
that.
like next blue chip prospect. Let's see the kid play. But it wasn't gonna keep me up at night or anything.
Yeah, that's fair. And look, he hasn't. They're not really practicing right now. They're so bloody busy and worn down and tired. But he'll get his chance in game 82. That'll be a good experience for him. And he needs to have a monster offseason. He did not have a good camp last year. He did not have a World Junior camp that was great, and he had a really, really good second half. So
To say the least.
let's keep her going, Zane. All right. And I imagine Suniev as well, who's just scored at every level and is an incredibly hardworking, goal-oriented kid that's traveled all around the world chasing this dream of being a hockey player. He's going to get his first NHL game, I imagine, on Thursday night. Pretty cool story.
Yeah, be interesting to see. I haven't gotten to see him play much at all, just little highlight packages. So it'll be nice just to get a sense of that player.
Yeah, I won't watch a lot of college, but anytime he scores, it's all over social. And I know one of the coaches that had him for a couple of years, and they just rave about the human, how hardworking he is, and single-minded, and you would not be deterred from this goal of leaving Kazan, Russia, and becoming an NHLer. Cool stuff. Okay, so I guess Zane Parekh, maybe you should be calling Derek Newman. That's what this is about, because I don't think you're going back to Saginaw, son.
Time to get at home here.
Cozy in Calgary. Call Derek, 403-619-6661. You can call Derek too, not just Zane Parekh. I'm sure he'd do a great job for you and Zane. That's why Derek's so great. The Derek Newman Group with CIR Realty. Buying or selling greater Calgary area. Again, send him an email, dnewman@cirrealty.ca, whether it's complimentary in-home staging consultation, whether it's finding homes that aren't on the market yet that he seems to be able to hear rumblings about before they get there, whether it's your first time buying and selling or you're a seasoned flippy flopper of homes. Derek's there to help you. Let him get his network to work for you. We'll see Derek at the playoff draft on Thursday. Again, the phone number 403-619-6661 for Derek Newman, the Derek Newman Group with CIR Realty. Thanks for being with us all season, Derek. Okay, so the kids will play game 82, Minnesota, with an incredibly painful ousting of the Calgary Flames, who still could lose a tiebreak to be out of the Stanley Cup playoffs, I believe. Or is it, did the Blues? Yeah, I think the Blues are at 96. Let me just see, because that would be, when we look, we all knew what the
pain
ramifications were, but if it was a literal tiebreak that keeps them on, like, that's just extra cruel. Yeah, Flames 2 back.
Yeah, perfect.
They could actually tie the Blues, but will only miss the playoffs because of a tiebreak.
Correct game-winning goal, right?
It's all about the kids, Kent. It's all about the kids. Let's get some comments coming in, Jack. We got all kinds of people experiencing misery. We need them to join in. We'll start with some super chats with you, Center Calgary. $2. Canadian from What? Is there any possible positive to this finish? Okay.
Yep.
Watching the kids game 82, that's positive. Dustin Wolf is the greatest development of the season. That is more than a silver lining. It is a direction-altering asset. It's going to be very hard to be a bottom 5 team with Dustin Wolf because he is that good. And that doesn't mean you shouldn't strip it down. It doesn't mean you do have to go spend in free agency, but a prospect has emerged as not just a number 1 goaltender, but I think an elite netminder in this league.
Yeah, there were definitely some positives to this season. And you always, when you're in a sort of interstitial phase like this franchise is, you use seasons like this for assessment, either of potential assets, like maybe Jonathan Huberdeau is tradable now if they want to trade him, but he kind of resuscitated his value a little bit this year. But you also have, Matthew Coronado coming out, scoring more than 40 points.
2 assists
on a roster. Yeah, on a roster that didn't score a lot of points. Like, he looks like a legit player. I think the biggest positive. Yeah, I mean, he didn't even make the team out of camp, right? And then he came out.
Yeah, he went down for a heartbeat. I think he went down for a weekend, scored a bunch of goals, and he was back 2 games later.
But yeah, he's a complete player this year, where he looked like just a shot kind of last year and not much else. To be fair, a very young player at the time. But I think the biggest positive potentially for this season is the rehabilitation of a dressing room that was horribly toxic and fractured just a couple seasons ago.
Yeah.
Like coming out of the Daryl Sutter thing, where he kind of coached out of spite for a year, and half the players on the team were like, nope, like
Like a
full on revolt. Guy said, I don't want to be here if he's still here.
Yeah.
I mean, that's one of the fears of rebuilding too, is where you tank the culture in the dressing room through loss, right? So these guys came out, they played to the end. They played above their skis. It definitely helped to have a great goaltender, but even a game like this, right? Season's over, they come out and win anyways.
You know what? And I want you to stay there with the culture and the group, because after this win on a night they were eliminated from the playoffs, this group still spent, I think, like 30 seconds at center ice at least, saluting the fans. The fans were applauding like crazy. This is not a normal scene for a team that finishes ninth in the West, and that's not a shot at the Flames nor the fans. It is an understanding of how incredible this achievement was with this group, and that the easiest thing to do would be fold the tent down 3-1 after 40 with, your playoff
nothing
hopes
on the line.
Zero.
Yeah.
That was almost the season. And we talked about, the season in a microcosm. Them being down 3-1 and being eliminated and putting together a really solid third period and playing for each other and winning in overtime, also a microcosm of this season, because there was a lot of times where you're just like, well, they're cooked now.
This is over.
Whether that was in game or whether that was a losing skid or whether it was 5-2 against the Leafs on national television on St. Patrick's Day, whether that was back-to-back losses in Vegas and Utah in, I want to say, November. There were times where it was just like, nope, they're not good enough. And every time you were convinced of that, this group proved you wrong. And so, I don't want to put too much stock in the culture thing, because, this room that's very tight and this leadership group that I think is a very good one, a simple trade of Rasmus Andersson, because what he wants and what the Flames want to offer don't match, might have a huge ripple effect that affects all that. And these unquantifiable things, it can be dangerous to put a ton of stock in them.
They're
because
fragile.
Sometimes it's just everything's feeling good and you're getting a bounce here or there that you weren't expecting. It doesn't seem to take much to be able to topple that. I don't want to put too much stock in it for next year, but certainly this year, the culture's beyond back on track. It's in a good a spot as it's been since the Battle of Alberta against the Oilers.
Well, the other issue is like, you can't get complacent with this isn't the end goal, right? Being ninth in the West is actually no man's land. This is a terrible place to be long term. It's impressive against what expectations were. And you can't go into next season and be like, well, we got good guys and this is a good room. It's definitely not the end point. But that said, it's much better than having what they had at the end of the Sutter season, where you could see the room was done. Like you had Kadri going in and one-handing a puck behind his net and Chicago grabbing it and scoring, and everyone shrugging and being like, oof. Yeah, you don't want that. But they definitely have to take real steps forward talent-wise, or else none of that ultimately matters too much.
This is where the job gets difficult for Craig Conroy. Not to suggest it hasn't been, but the easiest thing to do is say Rasmus is a great soldier and he wants to be a Flame for life. And, he probably played through a significant injury here the last couple months. And let's just give him the max term, because culture, these unquantifiable things. An 8-year deal.
Fall in love with this.
Right. And he knows that, but he also doesn't want to, rock the cart things. Because this culture we've placed so much stock in, if that's your silver lining, you almost can't tear this thing down at all. And so how do you approach next year? I wouldn't be surprised if he just tinkers around the edges. Go get a veteran left shot defenseman, maybe someone that could even play with Perek that's really good at sheltering a guy that likes to cheat for offense, in terms of like, he's good at that end. I'll hold the fort here. I'm thinking of Quinn Hughes and Chris Tanev, his rookie year, Quinn's, or even Shillington, what he was allowed to do playing next to Chris Tanev. Those aren't easy guys to find, but maybe they do that. They certainly need to find, upgrading center would be nice, because Kadri and Backlund are going to be another year older. Perek's going to be on this team. Ball will get extended. Zeri will get extended. Coronado gets extended. Please sign Wolf for as much money as he asked for 8 years beyond next year's final year of his deal. But I wouldn't be surprised if Connie just says, look, we're going to come back and we'll see if this culture thing's real. And if it's not, I trade Andersson.
Yeah, that could definitely happen. I think ultimately with culture for a franchise and organization is it only matters if it can be maintained and transmitted over time, right?
And it has to be tied with winning too, right?
And ultimately has to lead to winning. But if it only depends on a handful of guys who are over 30 sticking around ultimately, that's not going to last no matter what. You're going to have attrition because all those guys age out.
Yeah.
Backlund's not going to last forever. Kadri's not going to last for, like, all these guys, you know, time plays a part. So they need to take whatever is working now and teach the mid-20 guys how to maintain it, because that's the only way it matters.
Coronado, Ball. Wolf. Yes, absolutely. That's a great point. And I don't think that's incredibly profound so much as that's just very, very well put, that if it's just the leadership group of 5 guys and they're all in their 30s, well, you haven't created culture. You just got guys getting a little bit worse every year that are less impactful, and their voice is getting a little smaller in the room every year. You need everyone in that room to inherit what this leadership group put in place this year. Good stuff.
Right.
Back to the question, Jack. I know we got a billion, so we'll start ripping through them. Were you not entertained? We were entertained. We were,
awesome.
Keith. We were, but I'd also be entertained by, you know, like Roger McQueen playing on this club in a couple of years, or, you know, like if they picked in the top 10 here, nothing that happened this year is bad short term. It's just long term. If they had one more year before Wolf figured this thing out, you'd be a lot closer to having a cup winner in a new building in Calgary. But yeah, short term, this is a really entertaining year.
Yeah,
no question.
Absolutely.
That's this balance that Connie and the owner and everyone's trying to figure out. Fans, am I on Team Tank? Do I want them to make it? It's the short-term gain of how fun playoffs are and what it does to a city, or your bottom line if you're the owner, or your job security if you're a coach or GM, or your, you know, desirability for destinations of free agents. And it's weighing that against, like, well, are we going to be a contender at the end of this, or is it just going to be a great story that we got into 8th and got pumped in round 1?
Yeah.
This is not an easy roster to start with and build a cup contender. They've got, like,
no, as it exists,
how many building blocks from a cup winning team? Because you got to think it's not happening the next 2 or 3 years. And that means, okay, all the old guys are going to be too old to be a part of it. So Wolf's a part of it.
That's right.
And you're hoping that the Coronado, Zeri, Perek are a part of it. And maybe Morgan Frost can take a lot of that skill and turn it into more production, and he could be a part of it. But they're nowhere near a cup winning roster when you look at what Florida and Edmonton and Colorado and Vegas and Tampa, like, those teams have layers of core players. This team is like got an aging core that ain't quite anymore and a young one that's not quite ready yet.
Yeah, when you're a hockey team in the NHL, your local maximum is determined by your peak players and how many you have, right? And so the Flames' local maximum is Wolf right now, and then maybe Perek. But you don't become a contender without at least one elite forward, if not 2 or 3, right? It's just there's, if you're, you know, Wolf and Perek, then you become the Nashville Predators.
It's Saros and Yossi.
Yossi.
And you know, maybe Coronado is your Phil Forsberg. It's not enough. It's a good team. It probably makes the playoffs, but you're not winning cups. No, God, no. Okay, next question. Nashville is a scary comp. Before we move along, they had a really hardworking, scrappy team that couldn't score a lot, and they went out and said, we're going to spend our way into contention. Don't do that, Flames.
That's right.
Don't do the Marsh Saucier, Stamkos, you know, hundreds of millions of dollars shuffle. Don't do that. Here's Norm, $10. I am in an emotionally abusive relationship, oh dear, with a hockey team. Okay, well, I was worried for a while, Norm. Norm, all you need to know is you're in a safe place. And there's many people here with you tonight that have shared the same feelings you have. And if you want to talk about it in the comments, you're not alone.
Yeah.
End the stigma, Norm. Talk about it. You can talk.
Show us on the doll where they hurt you.
It's right up here. Ryan Hunter, 279. Who should we try to deal and wheel or let go? No sugarcoating. Look, I don't know what Rasmus Andersson's ask is, and I really like the player, and I think he's an important part of this group. But I think signing Rasmus to an 8-year deal at what I think his market rate or market ask would be will not help this team win a cup in 5 or 6 years when he's in steady decline. If you just look at a typical aging curve, I don't want to put too much stock in what he looked like down the stretch here because I know he's playing through something. But maybe there's a way you can bring him back. But I mean, I just think if you can turn him at $4.55 million into young assets, first rounders, a center that shoots right, that's, maybe blocked in a contending organization, I think you have to.
I'll go even further and say if I was in the front office, I'd put everyone over 30 on the auction block. Now, that's not saying I would definitely trade all of them, but I'm taking calls on everybody.
I looked at this. Rasmus has a 6-team no trade. That's tiny. You got 26 teams you can send him to. You don't need his permission. Blake Coleman's got a 10-team list he will go to, so you're going to have to call him. You're going to need a list.
Yeah.
Huberdeau, no move. Kadri, no move. Uyghur, considerable trade protection. So you can say you trade everyone over 30, but you start talking about the culture in that group of guys, GM's asking them for their lists isn't something that just is water off a duck's back. These guys are playing their asses off of the city and they want to be here. They showed that this year. So easy to say, very hard for Craig Conroy to do.
I'm definitely not saying trade all of them. I'm saying you put notice out and say I'm taking calls, and then you see what the market is, and if anything's worth your while, then you go to the player and say, listen, here's what we got. I think
Blake Coleman's got 2 years left. He'd look really good on the third line of a contender.
Absolutely.
So I don't think that conversation necessarily happens this summer. I loved what I saw for prices for Reynolds this year at the deadline, the year the Flames of course weren't selling. We can't have nice things. But if you're out of it next year with a similar group, it's like, Blake, how about a third ring? Where do you want to go?
Somewhere.
Give me a list. I'm going to make this happen for you. You've been a great Calgary Flame. When your deal's up, maybe we find a way to bring you back on a one, like whatever. But like, it's going to be best for everyone if we get you out here to a contender. You can try to win. We'll get some younger assets. But
the best asset they have is Uyghur. He had a tremendous season. He is an exceptional player, and but
he's also one of the guys that I'd understand if they didn't move, because that's the culture has to maintain. There has to be leaders left around, and I don't know that you're going to see effective play from the guys deeper into their 30s much longer.
And he might be Parek's natural partner for a while here too.
Play the left, why not? Yeah, he did it most of his career seemingly with Ekblad and his entire time here before this season. You had Tanev and Andersson on the right. It was him and Hannafin on the left. Okay, let's get to more questions. We got a ton. I told you we'd get to a bunch of them, so we'll get a little quicker. Got lots of time, though. We're good. The flippin' Quackers had a chance to score on an empty net. They played that last 2 minutes like they didn't want it. FFS Ducks are paid off by Bettman. Or the Ducks just kind of suck or don't want to do the Flames favors. I don't know that this is a deep state. Bettman
you shouldn't depend on the Anaheim Ducks for anything. They've always screwed the Flames over, frankly. So.
Yeah, that's from C2. Now, is that an explosive property, C2? Or is that a different one? C4? I feel like C4. Explosives are. I shouldn't know that, nor should I be talking about it. I feel like I'm going to get flagged. Okay, we'll move along. Next one, Jack. Jackie predicted this scenario. What a jinxie pants you are, fella. At least Wolf has a chance to finish with 30 wins. Pinder put a curve on that cap. How about I wear my clothes, you wear yours? I will critique yours. Although if you do want to send some photos in, Ken, and you want us to play Fashion Police, it's not where we're best at. We'll give it a try. Jack, what did you predict happening today? It was kind of close to what ended up happening.
I don't know, but I feel like everyone saw something like this coming, where it was just going to be so close, and then not quite.
Empty net behind the Wild, 20 seconds left.
Yeah. Big pain.
Honestly, 21 more seconds from the Ducks. This is a very different show. And there's no Brek Suniev or Carter King on Thursday in LA, and we're gonna have to get a second screen at the draft at Cowboys Casino and the BMO Center for our playoff pool. That's how razor thin the margins are. It's ridiculous. A bounce in St. Paul with 21 seconds left in a game completely changed the course of their season, or at least did for 2 days. Next, Milk. GFG, I believe that means go Flames go. Establish a new baseline and improve upon it next year. Almost a quarter of the cap unspent and only 1 or 2 wins away. Kind of, yeah. Again, that's what Nashville thought a year ago. Only 1 or 2 wins away from round 2, they were saying, because they played Vancouver tough in round 1. And it's like, oh, look, we got all this cap space. Why wait around? Let's do it now.
Yeah.
Careful. The deals you sign on July 1 are not off the deals you're happy you made, especially, recent history here. James Neal, Troy Brouwer, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, I don't even know who they would. Marner, is he going to come here?
Probably no. Again, you're going to be picking off the second tier because the top flight guys are going to go to contenders. But yeah, you could find some depth pieces, a left shot defenseman that's, they could use some help there. They're probably going to lose Hanley. I haven't loved Jake Bean. Their only real lefty's Kevin Ball. So I would shop there. They're going to look for some scoring, but finding scoring that also can, work hard and check and play in Huska's system might be harder than it looks at first glance. I don't know that Anthony Manthana was going to be that guy or not, but some games he looked like it. In other games, it was like, this ain't working.
Yeah, he was very up and down.
So careful, Milk. Careful. Peter, Houston. Peter, crazy that Biznasty fight outside your restaurant there in Scottsdale. Hope your business is recovered. Maybe great PR. Who knows? Which of these have the best chance to stick next year? Parekh, Gridden, Suniev, or Brstevich? Note, what happened to Mantha? What happens to Mantha? He's a free agent. They can re-sign him again. What was it, an ACL or a knee or something? It was not ideal.
Bad.
Done for the year. I would say it's Parekh by a mile because he does not have the option of playing in the A. I think Gridden, Suniev, Brstevich, Basha. There's going to be a lot of kids for the Wranglers next year. It'll be a fun team to watch. I don't know how good they'll be, but, this year you could have gone and watched a Hanzik and a Brstevich, but there's a lot of first and second rounders all of a sudden that are going to be collected there.
Do you think Basha goes pro next year?
Yes, I do. I think, he's a late birthday to begin with. There's no 19-year-old issue. It's a 20-year-old season.
Yeah, just lost a year. So,
yeah, I also wonder with Medicine Hat. There's been a lot of players getting injured and a lot of why wasn't this figured out early? Like, I think they're just happy to get him under their eyes in their organization, especially coming off a big surgery that he had this winter, with their strength people, with their coaches, in their system, in their building. I don't think it's a debate at all.
Fair enough.
Kate. Next. Coach grade, I'd say B+ to A-. This team way outkicked their coverage this year. And a lot of that's on Wolf, but what can the coach control? A lot of people seem to think he can control whether they score a lot or not. I don't. I look at this roster. I don't look at them and say, this is a top 10 offense. What's he doing? Smothering it. I think he's saying, look at all these chess pieces I have left. Not a lot compared to, the team Darryl ran 3 years ago. Results have been way better. Culture, big check mark. Structure, work ethic, big check mark. And, people quibbling with him picking Sharangovich in the shootout. Go look at his career numbers. He's like one of the best guys they have in his career. And I don't necessarily have a problem with the coach saying, this guy is the best at the shootout. I don't care if he had a bad game. Like, we're here to get a point now.
Even if you want to go back a little bit further to Jeff Ward and the way that roster played under that coach, and that was a far superior roster to this, right? And it was staid and boring, and the offense was similarly bad, but the defense was.
They have an identity, like they do. And
yeah,
that's because that's a part of his job is to get them to believe in that identity. And I think every guy on this team knows what his role is. I don't think there was any confusion. And if there was, you're probably not here anymore. Like Tyson Barrie, sorry, we don't have the role for you.
Can't play anymore. They were all pulling on the rope in the same direction. And that's pretty much what you wanted out of this season of this coach. So
and maybe
I was relatively happy with him.
Yeah, and maybe it's just everywhere and it's every topic and people just want to be angry at stuff. But I just see a lot of stuff online. I'm like, it's a really bad take. If they made it in with this run, he's getting coach of the year votes. He just is.
Probably.
With this roster.
Yeah, and they had the 27 game run or something where they didn't score more than 3 goals. But that's been my argument most of the year too. Like, look at the roster. I thought this was a bottom 5 roster in the league.
Like we talked about in the summer, like there isn't a guy you could put down in pen for 30. There's only a handful of teams in the league that you can't put a guy down for 30.
Yeah, and Kadri got
Christ, you got teams that have 3, 4, 5 of them.
Yeah.
Okay, next. Who coached the team the last time they made the playoffs? That was you, Daryl. Also, the last time we saw a group that hated going to work so much so that it basically...
It was a mutiny.
It was a mutiny, and the general manager walked away.
And that roster was tremendous.
And again,
was a great roster.
No revisionist history. Daryl Sutter, Hall of Fame coach.
Absolutely.
That was probably his worst year he had coaching the NHL.
You could tell he was done as well. It wasn't just the players.
With that group for sure. Like, yeah. And they were done with him. He was done with them. You know, right from the first couple of weeks, saying the guy was taking a dump when he's on a training table. Like, why? Why are you going public with that stuff? There's a lot. Oh, and Nick Ritchie in the shootout. People want to get mad at Sharon Govich in the shootout. Nick bleeping Ritchie got cut from Finland a year later. Christ.
Well, they asked about Pelche in a scrum, and he's like, who? Who is that?
What number?
Player's number? What are you?
Families waiting around for this debut.
Holy cow. Yeah, anyways.
Here's Yeti. If the Rangers have a fire sale, there's some pretty decent centers there. I wouldn't mind seeing Trocheck here. 3 more years at 5.6. That's an interesting stopgap. If you're trying to get competitive, yes. But again, the Rangers are going to ask for assets for that.
Right.
Because Zibanejad might be the only guy you get a deal on because he just had an atrocious year and he's making a lot of money. You're going to have to go shop in the distressed item aisle if you want a center in the NHL. That's how Washington got Pierre-Luc Dubois.
Worked out.
Like you just don't get these guys when things are going well. When guys are playing well, they're not available. You could go shop for an Elias Pettersson.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if it's going to
work. Scary is that, though?
It's very scary. That's my whole point. The only things available at reasonable prices are going to be really scary things, like Pierre-Luc Dubois, who basically got voted off the island in LA in the first of an 8-year deal. Like, Elias Pettersson, who got their game breaker traded away and, has huge question marks surrounding that entire organization. Those guys are the ones that are available. Like, do you have the brassy ones for that if you're Conroy? When everyone's being patient for a rebuild, are you really going to stick your neck out for 6 more years at $11.6 million?
The real issue that you touched on, though, is that when you're a mid team like this and you start trying to make trades for other slightly not mid players, you got to start moving assets, right? So you're moving assets out to bring in slightly better assets in. Maybe if it works out, that's kind of how you stay mid.
Yeah, right? You cap yourself out, and your system isn't as good, and you don't have as many.
You've traded prospects and draft picks.
Yeah, exactly.
You don't have those anymore, so it's kind of a dangerous game to play when you're not. That's why the regime and the franchise has to make a decision of what they are building. What is the vision and mission here? Is it to build a contender? Then it's a long-term goal. You're not going to shortcut it unless. Jack Eichel type trade falls into your lap.
Asset.
Right? And that worked out because Vegas is the luckiest franchise in the friggin' league. I'm really sick of their crap, honestly. But yeah, if something like that happens, maybe, but there's probably no shortcut here. You just got to build a strong foundation, get an elite young player, and create that core around him.
Agreed. Next, let's roll. Guys, who would you target for agency this summer? I would not go crazy, but I would look at, okay, we're 2-3 days into free agency. Who's my left shot veteran that thought he had a 3-4 year deal and I'd get him for 2? Just plug a gap, plug a hole for a couple of years. Left shot.
Yeah. Wait for the frenzy to end, pick up a nice underpriced asset.
I'd look at the similar, that's what they got with Anthony Mantha. Guy waited, couldn't get a deal. Exactly. 1 year, low risk. If he's great, and the season's great, we can extend if we like him. If he's great and the season's not great, we can trade him at the deadline.
That's right.
So yeah, I'm not splashing huge dough around this summer. Can this damn franchise just tank for once? Like, is ownership really that stubborn for possibly 2 games of playoff revenue? We've made it to the second round twice in the last 21 years. Crying emoji. That's from Alex Wind.
Yeah.
Alex, you're not wrong, but again, I think the owner probably thought he was tanking this year. All right, I'll finally do it. Oh, this team's good. I mean, it's so flamesy, right? You finally get the owner on side.
Oh, it's the best goaltender we've ever had.
Oh, yeah.
Best rookie goaltender.
It's a California Kipper. Who knew? What else have we got, Janko? Did Trent Cull earn a full-time gig? The penalty kill got a lot better on him. I agree. I think he did. I guess you asked. Yeah, I think he has. G Fount YYC. G Fount. Yeah, look, I like him. I don't know him terribly well. I think he's well respected. He's got a pretty interesting coaching resume and seemed to fit in really nicely. The penalty kill did get better.
Yep. 2 thumbs up.
Danicke. Not sure I'm saying your name. Apologize. We're going to keep accepting this mediocrity. I don't think anyone's planning for mediocrity here. So this is if they bring everyone back and it happens again, come back on the show in a year and lose your mind, because that's fair. Because Kent nailed it. Like, they have to pick a lane here. Right. Even if they return most of this roster and add Parekh, you still probably have to pick a lane at least by the trade deadline. I don't. If you 9th in the West next year is a failure. Like, I'm calling a spade a spade. This year was lucky based on a prospect goaltender looking like an elite netminder. You know, they actually were positioned to be picking high in the draft this year. But if you finish 9th next year, it's not the feel-good salute at center ice we saw tonight. It's like, God damn it, you guys. Like, start building a contender or, like, be one. Like, what are we doing hanging around in this mucky middle? So,
I wrote
an article recently. Phrase. Yeah. No, we won't keep
my article recently. I said, what should be blazoned on the windows in the office in the Saddle Dome is do not finish 9th.
Yeah.
That is the mission moving forward. This year, you're right. You had sort of this dark horse goalie come out and push you to that, but you can't wander in no man's land as this organization indefinitely moving forward. That is a terrible outcome, right?
Yep, agreed.
Find a way to get really good immediately or get worse for a little while. Don't sit in the middle of the league. It's terrible outcome for this.
You've got some lottery tickets. You had 3 first-rounders. You're going to get stuck with 2. Devils, they're below the Flames in the standing in points, I think. But they're going to get in the playoffs, which means that the earliest they can pick is 17th. If both wild cards or whatever the math would be, although they might be below the wild cards right now. Either way, the pick the Devils are giving you for Markstrom is going to be really comparable to the one you're giving to Montreal. Florida's tailed off a fair amount. They're resting everyone for the playoffs. That's going to be a pick in the early to mid 20s. I can live with that if that's pick 22. If you have pick 17 and 22, okay. Now next year, it's a special year. It's McKenna draft year. You got 2 bullets. You got an unprotected Vegas pick. Could something go as horribly sideways in Vegas as it has in Boston this year? Probably not, but maybe you're a bulge disc in Mark Stone's back and a Jack Eichel injury away from that. I don't know. And you've got your own. You got to start being a little more tactical. And I don't think they weren't being tactical this year, but I think it's like, okay, now is your chance to get something back for 30-year-olds you once thought you could never trade. And also, are we building a contender, or are we just going to be pumped to finish 8th in the West? Like, look yourself in the mirror and ask yourself what matters in this sport. I think they'd tell you it's Stanley Cup banners. Start working on that.
Yep.
Next. Pizza Guy Carson. Long-term bridge, 1-year prove it trade. Coronado, Frost, Zary. I'm going bridge or 1 year with Frost. I'm going long-term with Coronado. I see very little downside. I see a very, very high floor for Coronado, and I love the ceiling. Like, you give this guy consistent line mates, someone very offensively creative.
He's legit. He can play in
for 40 in the league. Like, yeah. And Zary, I'm kind of in the middle. I mean, I've really liked the player a bunch, and the injuries have gotten in the way, but you're like, oh, that's not lucky. That's just being unlucky. You're like, well, not if you get injured every year. And we're looking at like the last 5 years. He's had significant injuries, I believe. So maybe that is a guy that
bridge
or prove it. Or you say, I am going long-term because the injury risk is high enough that the agent and player, like, let's lock something in long-term in case you don't come back from the next one.
Yeah. Or the agent tells the player not to sign a long-term because it's just like the offer is going to be $3 million change.
Oh no! I mean, if you wanted to go 6 years times 5, it's or 8 times 5. Like I'd do that.
You'd probably take that
because now it's like, look, bud, you've had like multiple hits where it looks like your knee's about to get launched into orbit. Let's take the 40 million and you're set for life rather than what if we do one more year and we'll get to ARB and you make 3.5 and shoot. I mean, the risk profile is very different with Zary given the injury history, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Boy, I'm getting thirsty, guys. I just think, all this answering of questions, I might have to reach for a cold Origin beer from Origin Malting and Brewing. Kent, it's Strathmore.
I think I've heard of them.
Yeah, the original brewery where they make the malt. Their new Calgary location in the Northeast, 28th Street. Oh, baby. So just don't mind me while I get into one of these. Anyway, Origin, like 5th generation farmers, great beer, great barley, great malt, great beer, great people. And we're going to have their beers at the playoff draft, which is coming up on Thursday night. We're proud to be partnered with them. And it sounds like we've got some big news coming at you in the spring. We've got the Barnburner Blondes, which you're starting to see around town a little more. You see them, Ken? You see it on tap here or there in the liquor stores, things like that?
Yep, absolutely.
Talk to your restaurant bar guys. Talk to your liquor store people. Get it in. Get that stuff moving, and then it's on your fingertips at all times. And we also got our newest edition was the Afterburner Pale Ale, which Rhett loves. Rhett likes a little hoppier of a beer, kind of like a hazy. Delicious. And so I'm excited to see what the third project with Origin is. Maybe it's a board game. But more likely, it's a different beer. That's
probably not. Yeah,
probably not a board game. So thanks to Origin. Okay, back to the question. Did I answer the last question, Jack, or did I just get right into cracking a beer because I'm thirsty?
I think you answered it, yeah.
Okay, right on. Let's just keep it rolling. We're doing great on the questions here. Jerry, what would be the cost of moving into the top 10 in the draft? You see any team that may do this? Look, you got 2 picks. Let's say, just for argument's sake, you got 17 and 22. Maybe for some team that doesn't, there's a ledge at 8. We're picking at 10. And I don't have a deep prospect pool, and I think I could get the guy I really like in 10 picks. Maybe they'd take 17 and 22 and a third for you to get into the top 10. The other way you do it is to move Rasmus Andersson, but I don't know that I see a team picking in the top 10 that's like, let's grab this guy and extend him long-term as he's about to turn 30. But maybe Boston's that team. I don't know. You kind of have to be a contender to want Rasmus, not a rebuilding team, right? It's not Chicago. It's not San Jose. It's not who else is going to be way up there? I mean, Nashville's interesting. Maybe that. But yeah, that's what it's going to cost you to get into the top 10.
Try it again. Yeah, I don't think it'll be Nashville. I mean, maybe one of the questions is, can you get that first rounder back from Montreal, who's now poised to try to start
Yeah, that's a really good point.
Right?
The system's flush. Like they got that Michael Hage, Demidov's arrived, Hudson. They've got the goaltender from BU that just signed.
Reinbacher, yeah.
Reinbacher's going to be okay. Like not Mishkov good, but he's going to be a second pair defenseman probably for a long time. It's a good system they've got. There's a lot of really good players. They might not need a 16th overall pick as much as a like Coleman type or something like that. We'll see.
Or an Andersson type, or Huberdeau type.
Yeah. Well, I don't know the 16th overall. I mean, the more I read about this draft, it's like top's pretty good, thins out pretty quick. Once you get into double digits, it's like teams might have a guy at 30, other teams have him at 10.
I'll take 3 first rounders though.
Yeah, sure. Lots of bullets. Sure. Sticking on the draft, any intriguing prospects? Lots of intriguing. We'll have lots to talk about. I mean, season's going to end on Thursday. Yeah, we're going to do shows 5 days a week until free agency, and even more than that when you talk about draft specials and prospect specials. We got great people that in this community working hard on prospect stuff. I think about Byron Bader at Hockey Prospecting. Pike's great on prospects. Gould really likes getting into prospects. There's a lot of really sharp scouts in this area that we've had on. We'll get into that. One that is an interesting local flavor is the kid that's going to go high. Ben Kindle for the Hitmen?
Ben Kindle, that's right.
If he's 2 inches taller and 5 pounds heavier, I think he's in a totally different spot in the draft.
Yep.
And so that still remains a market inefficiency. He is a center at this point. And it's the Hitman tie-in. It's the only reason I bring it up. But there's lots of good local stories. And look, I think it's going to be very, very differing lists when you get past 10, even 8, I've heard from some scouts as a ledge. But that doesn't mean there isn't going to be guys that hit. We see it every year, even in the bad draft years. There's always some really good players. And no matter what the Flames' plan is, whether it's be aggressive, whether it's rebuild aggressively, whether it's hold the line, you're going to have to draft and develop well, no matter where you're picking.
Yep, absolutely.
That's the Minnesota, Dallas, Washington, that story. Minnesota burning $16 million a year, still very good on those Parise Suter buyouts.
It's non-negotiable in today's NHL, right? Like we look at the Buffalo Sabres, who are an embarrassment of riches and just can't. They can't seem to develop anybody.
There's lots of good players there. For whatever reason, it's not working. I would even say they're not bad at the draft. They're just bad at develop and culture.
No, they draft fine. Like all the guys they get. If you look at their roster right now, it's like this should be a contender, and they all, except for Dahlin and like Thompson, suck.
Yeah. Okay. Keep moving. FUBAR. Today I'm going AWOL. That's a lot of acronyms there. FUBAR. Today I'm going AWOL. What would you guys offer sheet Maverick Bork? I would be very careful about offer sheeting because that's your lottery ticket for Gavin McKenna. It is not this summer's draft picks. You cannot offer sheet someone until you get beyond July 1. The draft's already happened. I'm a little leery on the offer sheet things because teams are expecting it now. The cap's growing immensely. And I don't think teams are going to be, to put it bluntly, as dumb as Jeff Jackson was, masquerading as a GM for 2 weeks. They literally let Ken Holland go the week of the draft. And they had Stan Bowman in place like mid-July. He literally just put a target on his chest and didn't have a clue. It's like walking around in a neon outfit in the paintball field. Like the guy he painted a target that said offer sheet here. And other teams are going to do that. Like the Stars are very sharp. They also got some expiring money. I think Ben's off the books again in another year, but they also, they just paid Wyatt. They're paying Robo. You could try, but
and how good is Maverick Bork at this point? Like,
I don't know.
Yeah.
And if it's like, he's not that good, we'll just offer him the one for a third runner. It's like, they're matched then. It's $2 million.
Right.
Like, I think you had to keep it under $4.58 million this past summer to not trigger a first rounder. Anyone that you really want, you're going to pay more than that. And then it's like, shit, that might be the McKenna lottery ticket. Maybe this team will have something nice happen to it once in its entire franchise history, only except that you traded that time, that pick that won the lottery.
People would jump off buildings.
Yeah, that's true. There you go. We'll keep rolling, Jack, until we're done rolling. Evaluate tank from the last 20 years to see how many teams actually did well versus those that stayed at the bottom and for how long. That's not a question. You're tasking me with something that's going to take more than 30 seconds, Milk. I'll put it the other way. Find me a common thread between the last 20 cup winners. And if you want to make it even like more of a high bar, teams that won multiple cups, what do they have in common? And they're literally built with stars at the top of the draft that are homegrown. It's Taves and Kane in Chicago with Duncan Keith and Seabrook. It's Sid, Malkin, Letang, Fleury in Pittsburgh. It's a little different in LA, but it's still Doughty and Kopitar, who are high-end first-round picks. Florida's a little different, but Barkov's still a very high pick. Ekblad's a high pick. Reinhart was a second overall pick. Bennett was a fourth overall pick. They didn't draft them all, but they've collected them. Colorado's McKinnon, number 1 overall. Makar, 4th overall. Nichushkin's a guy that was 11th overall, I believe. Rantanen's like 9 or 10. Like, you can go tell me that rebuilding doesn't work, and I'll say, yeah, I'll show you dysfunctional organizations. Like Buffalo, I'll show you an owner that's hired the wrong GMs and the GMs that have hired the wrong coaches. But if you want
Buffalo
to
wasn't
teams that are
building
successful,
anything. Yeah,
they've all had a core piece from the top of the draft. Like the Blues are basically the only team that don't fit that profile, and the Golden Knights, because they were just competitive, they never have been bad. They haven't had a chance to pick high.
Tampa Bay beat the Flames for the Stanley Cup in 2004, bottomed out, picked Stamkos,
1-1. Hedman 3
Vasilevsky,
or 2.
eventually. They
Vasilevsky,
got Jonathan Drouin, who they eventually traded for Sergachev.
Yeah.
And then they got Kucherov and
Yeah.
Point later in.
Yeah.
And then they've already rebuilt a dynastic team while the Flames have been mediocre for those 20 years.
And so forth. Yeah. No, again, you were close here in the sense that I think you could have done greater things with that core that included Bennett, Monahan, Lindholm,
Gaudreau,
Kachuk, Anderson, Giordano. And some things happened that weren't great. Monahan's health became a major issue. Sam Bennett's development stalled out hard. We thought he'd be the 1C. He couldn't be 3C here, despite numerous
They
attempts.
couldn't find a goalie through most of the time. They find a
Mike
coach
Smith wasn't going to need it.
Markstrom
Markstrom was not quite good enough when you needed him, especially that series against Edmonton.
Yeah.
It's not easy. But again, you can go tell me that rebuilds don't all work. I agree. But what I'm saying is, if there's any sort of template to follow that ends with winning a cup, you definitely have to hit very high in the draft a couple times.
Yeah.
Let's keep moving. Pete's guy Carson's back. Assuming the changes are minimal, do you think the Flames exceed expectations like they did this year? Or do you think they bottom out like they're expected to this year? Well, expectations change. So my expectation for the Flames, to be fair, would be 93 points, 9th in the West, because that's what they are today, or 94. That would be the starting point for this team next year, wouldn't it be?
Yeah, I mean,
so now all of a sudden to exceed
teams,
expectations, like you got to probably be a home ice team in the playoffs.
Yeah, that's the issue. On a team like this, given the season we had, there's going to be huge range of potential outcomes, even if you benchmark at 93 points, whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
Because look at the season they had. I mean, they came from behind in the third period a dozen times. They had the most.
Another
OT
one tonight,
games,
10 at least. It was 9 a while ago. Yeah.
It was kind of like 14-15, where I think Burke said of that team, like, we made a lot of 40-foot putts this year.
Yeah,
right?
And they have this year. Yes.
And
great
they've
analogy.
done it kind of in a slightly different way this year. But all you need for the team to slip back badly is for a bunch of the 30-year-olds to take that step back, right?
Or just one single
Andersson,
goaltending issue, be it injury or
Wolf gets injured for 2 months, or Kadri and Huberdeau go down, or Backlund can't play anymore, because Backlund was a central stool leg to this team still this year, because he took on so many hard minutes, right? And he can still play, but he's going to be 36 next year. So
36
all
and 35.
you need is for that older cohort to start to slip. If Frost isn't if Farabee isn't anything, like that goes way backwards. Or everyone takes a step forward, the 30-year-olds don't go anywhere. You're still sort of capped out. You're not going to be a contender, but maybe you're a playoff team if Wolf is again a superstar.
Or you're again not as good as Minnesota that'll finally have money to spend. The Blues,
or you do this.
Or any of the teams that are already in.
Finish 9th.
Like, who are you better than on
9th.
paper right now that's in the playoffs in the West? Nobody.
Yeah.
Okay.
Nobody.
Next. Does Wolf still have a chance at the caller? I would say he's got a chance. I would say his chances are probably about 1 in 20 at this point. I think that odds would reflect that. Hudson's doing some historic shit. Now, if the Habs fumble the bag and don't get in the playoffs, and if Calgary had gotten in, I think those odds swing big time, because Wolf is very central to this team's success, and I think a lot of the hype around Montreal would die off if they choke this thing away. But, it's Hudson's to lose. Celebrini's had a very, very, very impressive season for an 18-year-old. He's basically been tasked to give you like second-line checking center minutes and responsibilities, and he's given you like number one sheltered center production, which is incredible at his age. And then Mishkov's just a finisher that probably was a bad fit for the coach and has a year that could have won a Calder in a weak class. This ain't it. You're 4th.
Yeah, that's right. And the evolving hockey guys, the guys who run the advanced stat database. They had a thing today talking about, taking the advanced stats, saying, here's our trophy picks for the year. They pick Wolf for Calder just
Good.
because
That's awesome.
because they just went through his impact, right? Like
Yeah.
they said, this is the highest impact goalie season we've seen in 20 years or something. And
Yeah. Wow.
he was 30 goals above replacement. And they're just like, this is crazy.
Yeah, crazy.
But nerds aren't going to pick a trophy. So
no,
it's
the GMs do. Oh, sorry. The GMs are the Vezina. My bad. Media will pick this one. And look, Lane Hudson's doing some things that are pretty historic. He just passed Chelios' rookie defenseman point mark. Like, it's nuts. The numbers he's putting up, we don't see rookies put up at that position.
That's right. It's not an insult to Wolf if he doesn't.
No, it's a great class.
Very, very strong class.
And then you have like the Barrett Jackman class. You're like, God damn it, why couldn't be that? It won't be a Wolf year, right? It's like, there's some years you're like, the guy was okay, I guess. I don't know. This is a 4-horse race. Pretty cool. How are we doing, Jack? We almost tapped. Adam Klapka, productive member of the team, or late season surge. They weren't meaningless games. Here's the thing. It's a low risk proposition. You go slap a possible size deal on him, 2 years, 1.1 a year, whatever. He doesn't have leverage. He doesn't have arb rights. It's like, that's an easy signing, and you liked what you saw. Do it again for another couple of years. We'll pay you again.
Yeah, found money.
Big time. And a nice development story for the Flames, playing in the Czech Republic. This is not a drafted player. This is not a guy who's in North America. Not unlike the David Rittich and some other swings. I remember like the David Wolf, the Jakob Nakladal. They've gone fishing overseas for guys, and it's a nice hit when you can bring in a 6'8" guy that's literally changed the outcomes of multiple games in the stretch around here.
Absolutely.
A couple more, Jack, and we'll call it, unless that's it right there. Big respect to you guys and gals for covering the team day in, day out. It's not easy with a ninth place team that can't score to find compelling stories and content. We always find stories, and whether it's about flapper pie or cherry blasters or gravy, power plays,
candy brackets,
mustaches, whatever. But yeah, look, we're not in the salt mines here. We love what we do. We're lucky to do what we do, and thank you for. I guess being a consumer, an end user of the product. Because if we're doing it and no one's watching or paying attention, we can't do this. It's just, you're in your basement talking to the walls.
To be fair, this season was a lot easier to find stories than if they'd finished, 13th and then we're out of it by February.
Last year was all the trades. You had the 7 free agents. It was Foley, Backlund, Tanev, Shillington, Zadorov, Lindholm, and I'm missing one.
Did you say Hannafin?
Hannafin.
Yeah.
Like that was last
off.
Yeah. And this year was very different.
Almost getting traded. Yeah.
This year it was like, well, now they're dead. Well, now they're dead. Well, and now I'm kind of believing. Well, now they're dead. Well, now I'm believing again. Game 81. They were in it till game 81. That's incredible. That's my cue, Jack, when I shut that.
Do you want to keep? I've got a lot of questions. We can keep going. It's up to you guys.
I got the Wolverine here. He probably wants to go nod a few beers. But let's handle a few more questions. Why not? Let's do this. Let's quickly get a palate cleanse, and then we'll jump back in. I want you to pick your favorite 5 or 6, Jack. The playoff matchups are almost entirely set, Kent. So Elliot Friedman tweeted this out tonight. A Toronto win. The Calgary, St. Louis, Minnesota schmozzle got sorted in the West. All we're waiting for is to see whether it's Columbus or Montreal in wild card 2. Your playoff matchups starting on Saturday will be, drum roll, maestro, Battle of Ontario, Battle of Florida, which is my favorite rivalry no one talks about in Canada.
Nice. Yeah.
It is also the Devils and Hurricanes, which we've known for over a week. Out west, it will be the Blues and Jets, a Shen brother rivalry, someone had noted. Avs Stars, we've known, have been on a collision course basically since that Rantanen trade, which is wild. Speaking of the Wild, they'll play the Golden Knights. Oilers, Kings, we've known that's going to happen for a while now as well. 4th year in a row for them. The only thing we're waiting on is the Capitals will host for games 1 and 2, either Le Canadien or the Jackets blue. So we'll see. By the way, Canadians in action against Carolina in their final game. Philadelphia did lose to Columbus today, and Columbus's final game is against the Islanders. Huge game tomorrow for our pals at Bet365. This is a Bet365 game. If you're a Habs fan, this is huge. Breaking news coming in from Bet365, where every nail-biting overtime win is a barn burner. Every face-off, hat-trick, power play, shot on goal, penalty shot, and every suspenseful minute in between is amazing. This is one of these games, Kent. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365, an official partner of the NHL. Download that Bet365 app and use the code NATION to get in on the game. Must be 19 or older. Please play responsibly. That's the season for the Habs. You can control your own destiny, or you can lose to Carolina, who's probably going to be rested, and hope that the Islanders take care of business for you. I know what they'd like to do. It's basically a pick 'em. Both teams minus 110.
Yeah.
Over under set at 6. You've got my attention. In Montreal with Demidov.
I'd have to watch that one.
Game of the night tomorrow. Once that playoff bracket's finalized Thursday night, we'll be gathering at Cowboys Casino and the BMO Center for our 3rd annual Barn Burner playoff pool, the playoff draft. It's brought to you by our good friends at McLeod Law, Fountain Tire, Cowboys Casino, the BMO Center, and it's all in support of Kids Sport. Excited to see everyone on Thursday. A lot of the sponsors of the program, a lot of great fans of the program, friends, and just annual. We're never missing this again. We had so much fun. Let them know. Put it in your calendar for next year. Let Eden at Kids Sport know. We're in next year. We're going to make this an annual. Get the guys at work in. Get the golf buddies together with men's hockey league team, fantasy hockey buddies, whatever it is. Eden at Kids Sport, Calgary.ca for more information. Excited to see everyone Thursday. Gonna be good. Gonna be great.
Time.
Wolverines in town, so you know things are gonna get wild. That's right. Okay, back to the questions. Jack starred his favorites. Let's get through them here. Finlay. Who do you guys think will be the biggest upset in the playoffs?
Ugh.
Like upset by the sports book or like 8 seeds? Ottawa could be tricky, but
Yes.
even the Washington-Montreal thing's interesting. This is like, there's some guys that have been around for Ovi's winning, but for a lot of their important pieces, this is their first playoff that, they have a chance in. They got swept last year by the Rangers as an 8 seed. They had no business getting in. Charlie Lindgren was red hot. They got pumped by the President's Trophy winners. That building in Montreal is worth 1 win in a series, and Demidov and Hudson and Caulfield and Suzuki and I'm not saying I think it's going to happen, but there's a world where Montreal puts a hell of a scare to the President's Trophy or the Eastern Conference 1 seed.
If they make the playoffs.
Yeah, they do have to do that. So
yeah,
it's going to be very tough for them to upset Washington if Columbus gets in.
I think the Kings could. Are they considered underdogs against the Oilers
at this point?
How do we feel about the Blues?
I wonder what the Blues. Dylan Holloway got hurt, and they haven't looked quite right since. Now, again, you win 12 in a row, and all of a sudden you lose 4 in a row after, and everyone's less inspired. But
yeah,
if I know they're at full health, and I understand that Winnipeg's greatest opponent in the playoffs might just be their own playoff demons
themselves,
ghosts of their playoff past.
Yeah, that's not a bad pick, actually.
I don't love the Wild's chances against Vegas.
No.
I think the Wild are a really smart organization, but they're just one offseason away from getting rid of all that dead money. They've been operating at like an 85% cap. That's just incredible. They've been able to do what they've done. Great in the draft, but it's not yet. Let's keep moving. Hey guys, which game do you look back at? The Flames could have gotten to a spot. Yeah, the Anaheim one stings because it's recent. Yeah. You've had a 3-1 lead with 4 minutes left. Foot on the throat. That one sucks. You also have
a dozen games like that over the season.
There are, and you have the grainy goal line photos in multiple games.
Several of those, yeah.
NASA's on TikTok with high-res shots of Jupiter 180 million miles away, and you're like, this puck's 4 feet away. How do we not have a better camera here?
Yeah.
It's part of it, though. I mean, look, they had another comeback tonight. There's a lot of ones that they had no business coming back to win.
That's right.
It goes both ways. Thank you for that, Richard, by the way. Very good. Jordan, I don't know how you could look at this season as anything but positively. So many good things to build on. It's going to be a competitive team for a while. Are you not expecting the young players to improve? Which young players are on the team that are going to make great strides? I mean, Coronado could take a step. Zeri could take a step. Kevin Ball, maybe a half step. It's not an incredibly young roster. Like, the reason you wouldn't be positive is because you'd acknowledge that you'd actually expect a lot of guys to take a half step back because they're into their 30s, like a 36-year-old Backlund and a 35-year-old Kadri, and Uyghur another year into his 30s. So we've had an incredible year. And
the thing with players is development isn't this
linear
for young players, right? It's one, it's not linear, and two, some guys just. I mean, Sam Bennett was the same player forever here. He started at the same level. He got a little better as it went in. You liked him in the playoffs, but he came into the league as like a 20-point player. He left the Flames as like a 40-point player. He never.
And if you want to throw that question back up, like
he never took that step, right?
Right, until he was gone. The reason
now he scored 50 points this year, right? So it's just like,
this doesn't feel
defining the org, right?
This doesn't feel like Montreal right now. Montreal has been patient and collected a ton of young assets, and it's finally coming to fruition. This feels like they could play their asses off and finish 10th in the West next year again. This does not feel like a burgeoning contender. It's not.
Yeah, they don't have.
And so that's where
they don't have a Hudson, right? Maybe Peruk, but they have like 5 or 6 guys at this point that they've been building for 5 years or 6 years now.
Yeah, and so when you're saying how can you be anything but positive? It's like, well, if you want to just measure this team against Cup contenders, they're not even close. Like, you've hardly started the job.
That's the problem. Yeah, it's just the beginning. But I am super positive. Coronado is a player. Dustin Wolf is definitely a franchise goaltender. Yeah. But that's. You don't have a McDavid, right? You don't have that elite. You don't have a first line. Let's put it that way.
You don't have a center that you can trust in a top 2-line role that's under 35 next year. That's a little scary.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. Last couple. Guys, haven't heard his name in a while. Hanzik, possible to call him up for 82? Sure. Wranglers, yes, they are still playing. They punched their ticket. I don't want to look at their schedule. I don't want to have this guy bouncing around 3-hour flights as AHL playoffs are around the corner, but you could. Hanzik, again, not unlike Zeri, injuries have been totally eaten at by injury. It's frustrating. I still think there's a good player in there somewhere. They've got him playing the middle right now. If he's getting some minutes at center ice and they got a 2-game weekend, maybe you just keep him here, let him play. He played out of camp. It's not like, he hasn't been to a 5-star hotel.
He's not really knocking on the door either. If you're bringing him up,
really,
it's just kind of an experiment, right? He's
I
think he's going to be a long soak.
It's, developmentally, he's probably better off playing down the stretch and getting ready for playoffs with the team he's going to play the playoffs with in the American League. So, Hanzik will be interesting because he was awesome in camp and he made this team. Kind of been a forgotten man with all the picks made last summer and all the development elsewhere and, the college signings and such. But don't be surprised if he's another great offseason and has another great camp because, he did this year.
Yep.
Can we call this the last one, Jack? Pizza Guy Carson's getting a lot of love in here.
Yeah.
Slightly unrelated, but Flames Nation will be promoting Wranglers playoff run once it starts, will we? And as such, while they're in it, like you guys do with the Flames, I know we have a couple writers that do cover the Wranglers very well. So FlamesNation.ca is a great place to go for all that info. I know when I go up and look at what content we got for the Flames, there's a ton on the Wranglers, a ton on Flames prospects. So I know Paige does a bunch of writing on them as well as a few other writers. Right. On the, we don't deal a lot with the .ca people. We get Pike the Wrenchman a lot, but the other writers I don't really see or hear from much. Do a great job though. All right.
One more.
We're good. That's all.
All right, fellas. Kent, thanks for a long shift. Hour 23. Flames officially eliminated. Sadness. Welcome back. We're familiar.
Yeah, it's familiar.
We've lived in Calgary most of our lives.
Yep.
Thursday, LA, 7:30. Young players will be playing. We'll be hooting it up at our annual playoff draft. Can't wait to see everyone coming. And thanks to all of you that have supported Kids Sport on that venture. And, of course, all you that support us here on Afterburner and the main program, which we'll be back tomorrow with Barn Burner, like 10:13 in the morning or something like that. How dumb is that shit? See you, buddies.
See ya.